Billin.
All right, y'all, got something real special on deck right here. Cooking it. We're going to call it Towing the Line with Coach K, and that will be one Kenyatta Watson, almost world-renowned recruiting extraordinaire, relationship builder. He understands how to do a ton of things, and he's probably the foremost voice when it comes to high school to college football relations and helping kids establish relationships with colleges through football and through other endeavors. A man travels all around giving out seminars, and he's helped the who's who. If you have a favorite team, chances are there are multiple kids on that team that he's helped establish their college credentials coming out of high school. So Coach K wanted to sit down, get his word out there. He knows that my podcast can be a valuable platform to be able to get the word out there, and he feels like he can help a lot of people, and I feel it's that way too. And of course, I'm Murph Baldwin. You guys know me. I'll probably put this on Ty Billin Sports YouTube channel, or maybe even some of my Patreon sites there to get my man Coach K's word out there. But of course, I'm gonna be hosting the show. He's doing something with media. You know, he's hollering at his little bro Murph Baldwin. So Coach K, Kenyatta Watson, and Murph Baldwin back again. The brothers reunited, and it feels so good. Coach K, what's going on, baby?
What's up, baby? What's going on?
Everything is good, man. You're always on Twitter, causing a little bit of a stir. You have some really poignant things. It's one thing I want to do with your Total Line show is you have some of these quotes that you put out, and they get retweeted ad nauseum. And I like to have you sometimes talk about some of those quotes and kind of go in depth, maybe what's behind the meaning of it or something different in that aspect right there. But, man, you wanted to talk about recruiting and recruiting strategies, the rankings, all kinds of stuff you want to get off. Is it crooked business, the college recruiting, a lot of stuff you had to get off your chest, and they'll be able to hear it on your podcast, Total Line with Coach K. So you talked about, from a recruiting strategy standpoint, is it better to recruit the best player, or is it better to recruit to your system, or recruit the best players to your system? If you get, scheme specific fits, whether it be a lower ranked kid that fits your program a little bit better, or you want to go after just the best of the best, like some of these major recruiting programs do. You want to care to expound on that?
Well, yeah. You see the last four national champions. Two have been by Clemson, two have been by Alabama, and they both are 55-4 over the last 4 years. We've seen, nothing but success between these two programs over that time. But my biggest question was, and that's what kind of led me to the question, is you see Alabama, they recruit the best players. They get the best players year in and year out. They're number 5 recruiting classes. They're in the top 5 every year. And then you see, Clemson, who in their most recent run, they've been, somewhere around 15 to 10 average. They've been, really good at recruiting players to fit their system. And so the question arises, well, what works better? Because you've seen Alabama's success, you've seen Clemson's success. And so the question I typically go back to with some of my 19 kids, I ask, you want to go to the NFL or you want to win a national championships? And 10 out of 10 times the answer was, I want to go to the NFL. So if that's the case, we take it a step even further past the whole recruiting thing. You look at what Alabama's been able to do. And I just typically say the last 4 years, 39 players drafted compared to Clemson's 24. And then you take it a step even further, 10 first-round draft picks by Alabama, 5 or 6 by Clemson. And so, what are these kids trying to get accomplished? What are they trying to do? And then you take it to, the recruiting, the recruiting guys, the recruiting coordinators, the staffs that are building these super teams per se. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? What are you looking at? Will you take a kid that's a 5-star from Idaho just because he's a 5-star, but you'll shun the 2-star kid or 3-star kid from Metro Atlanta? You and I both know I'm taking the 2 or 3-star kid from Atlanta over the 5-star from Idaho every day of the week. But this is why we're seeing so many misses, in college football, because people are recruiting, all stars, trying to recruit the best players, so that's what kind of led to the question.
All right, so check this out. Then that begs the question, are colleges paying a little bit too close of attention to recruiting services, whereas they're the actual experts in this? They're the one that are actually doing this professionally, that have the actual football acumen. A lot of those guys that are in college coaches, well, first of all, they're on a college football team in a coaching capacity, but a lot of them have played and everything. You can't really say that about these guys that are giving out these rankings. Are they paying too close attention to that type of stuff when they should be doing it a different way? How close do these colleges pay to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are, and here's why: because boosters drive college football programs. Let's just first and foremost be clear about it. I don't care what anybody says. If you really do your homework and look at how coaches are paid, the majority of their pay comes from the boosters. Okay, so my thing is this: boosters like to see what? They like to see their teams in the marquee. Oh, we signed 6 5-stars or 4 5-stars. That's what sells. Okay, and you get a lot of programs getting caught up in that. Hey, we just signed 5 5-stars, or we have a top 5 class in the country. But then you turn around, is it paying dividends? I mean, you take a look at LSU. Every year they're signing top classes, but they're not winning. They're not even winning their conference, let alone a national championship. But take it a step further, they're putting a lot of guys in the NFL. So I personally think that, these recruiting sites are being paid way too much attention to. And it's weird because you look at a lot of these guys that are rated really high. What level of competition are they playing against? Are they playing at the like a high level, like a Grayson, or some of these schools where you're playing a national schedule every year, so you're playing against the top guys in the country. Yeah, you may not be rated as high, but then when you get to college, you transition better because you're used to the competition. Or are you one of these guys that are playing at a little small private Catholic school, and you're just a foot taller than everybody else? You got 30 sacks on the season, but then when you get into college and you're facing guys that are like size, like athletic talent, you struggle because you've never had that, that opportunity to play someone like that. So, I think a lot of that stuff comes into play when we're talking about, how people are recruiting, what's driving the recruiting, and stuff like that.
How much value do you put on level of competition? And is it possible that even though you're from a state that's popping, like, say, Texas, that you could still be playing subpar competition?
Absolutely. I've just seen it too many times where, competition has to matter. Competition has to matter. That's why, you look at the SEC. It's in the South. Majority of the players are from the South. I firmly believe that's where the best football is played. So, are there exceptions to every rule? Absolutely. You have guys like Roquan Smith played at a really small level here in Georgia. Turned out to be, first-round draft pick in the NFL. Yeah, there is always exceptions to the rules. But for the most part, you go look at guys that have had a lot of success or made it to the highest level. They come from big-time programs where you're going to be getting pushed day in and day out.
So when you're talking about the level of competition, sometimes that doesn't necessarily matter about who you're playing against on your schedule. It goes even further than that, the type of competition that you get in practice.
Well, absolutely, because I'll take Grayson for example. We had 16 kids signed Power 5 out of the 2019 class that just passed. So every day, I use my son. He went against wide receiver Kenyon Jackson that signed with Texas A&M, or you got Owen Papo tackling Ronald Tompkins. You got a True Thompson battling at Florida State, battling the Ja'Kai Clark that signed with Miami. You got Kevin Harris going up against Trente Jones that signed with Michigan, or Wanye Morris that went to Tennessee. You can't tell me when he gets to school, when these guys get to school and they've gone against, okay, it's time to check Colin Johnson now at Texas. My son is like, well, hey, I have experience defending big, tall, physical wide receivers that can run because I did it in practice every day for 4 years. Or Kevin Harris, you got to, go up against a top flight tackle. hey, it's nothing. I've done it every day for 4 years against, Wanye and Trente. So again, man, it absolutely matters. The speed of play, that was the biggest thing that I'm talking to my boys that are in college right now. They say, Coach, the speed of play is different, but the competitive nature is in us because of what we took place in high school.
Certainly, man. And I'll say this. Recruiting evaluation or prospect evaluation is an inexact science, and it's so hard. I'm pretty sure these guys want to give themselves the best method to doing that. But how do you feel about a lot of these guys putting weight on things like 7-on-7 or just non-traditional aspects where there's no actual football involved? You're just kind of mimicking football, whether it be camp settings and everything like that.
I don't like it at all, and here's why. I feel like there are only two positions that you can evaluate in a 7-on-7 setting. One being receiver, one being defensive back. But you can only evaluate them to a certain extent because in a real game, wide receivers have to block. They don't block in 7-on-7. In a real game, defensive backs have to tackle. They don't tackle in 7-on-7. Okay, but you can evaluate them on competitive toughness, athleticism, things like that. But it kills me that so much is being put on the 5-star challenge, the Nike opening, and stuff like that. It's like, dude, are you serious? Like, there are a lot of kids anybody can look good in T-shirts and shorts. But when those pads come on, the coverages change. You can't run these little funky made-up routes that you run, or you're going to get your head knocked off by an outside backer buzzing to the flat. There's a lot that you just can't do, and it's not real football. Never, ever, ever does a quarterback get to stand back unmolested for 4 seconds and just throw the ball. And so it's gotten away from what football is really about. Guys who actually played the game and have been in the trenches and know that they really don't like 7-on-7. I mean, it's cool. It's cool because, anytime kids are getting work, getting an opportunity to compete and do things, it's great. But as far as like this huge evaluation tool that it's become, come on, man, I'm not buying it.
No, some of these things like that should definitely be a method of helping players get better. Even some of these camps, right? So much emphasis are placed on a lot of these camps back when I was coming up, camps were to help you better your game. Now it's an evaluation point, and they put an extreme emphasis on it, all right? So you mentioned the 5-star challenge, Rivals 5-star challenge. So we saw some really good players out there. Let's not get this right. Let's not get this wrong. Everybody there is extremely talented. This is the best of the best throughout the country. Not all of the best of the best. There are some guys that we will see that will come by. Like I think about a guy I did some content on, like an Eric Stokes. I never seen Eric Stokes at any one of those type of camps, but he's looking like perhaps the class of the entire SEC conference when it comes to cornerback play. But some of these guys, and keeping it up the spirit of what you said, a guy like Keely Ringo, to me, kind of had a tough 5-star challenge right there. And if you're talking about being an evaluation and how some of these guys are evaluating him, being as though he comes from, where is he from? Arizona, I believe. Like,
right.
Who is in Arizona challenging Keely Ringo on a day in and day out basis on his weekly schedule? And who is challenging this kid that is on his team as well, So you have to think that's a really big step up when you take a guy like this to whether it be the opening or the Rivals 5-star challenge, and he's against kids that are just as athletic as him. What do you think about that particular aspect of it?
Well, I think that Keely is an absolute physical freak. Anytime you're 6'2", you're 205 pounds, you run a 10-4 legit 100 meters, 4.35, 40. I think he's a physical specimen. I personally don't think he's a cornerback. I think he's a safety. I think he could be like Sean Taylor at safety. I think that with a kid that big, that fast, that physical, if he could see it in front of him and come downhill and strike it or break on a ball, he will be phenomenal. Okay, but again, much like what we're talking about, who's he playing against? Who's challenging him on a weekly basis? We saw in the 5-star challenge, he didn't have his best outing. Why? These are questions that you ask. Now, are there good football players all around the United States? Absolutely.
Of course.
You look at Christian Wilkins. He was from Massachusetts. What the Clemson dominated. But, at some point, these guys that are doing these rankings and this stuff, you have to put some type of precedent included in the rankings on where these guys are from, who they're playing, what type of competition on a week in and week out basis. It just has to happen. I'll give you an example of a guy that was, to me, it's a travesty that he was not at the 5-Star Challenge, because how do you win the MVP at the Atlanta Regional to Jerry Smith, cornerback now at McEachern High School? He won the Nike Opening MVP in Atlanta. He won the Atlanta Rivals MVP as defensive back, and he didn't even get an invite. One thing I know about that kid, he's a dog. 7 days a week. He would have competed a lot harder and a lot better than a lot of these guys that were at the 5-Star Challenge. So I don't agree with that. I don't agree with, a lot of how these kids are selected. I don't agree with how these kids are rated. There's just a lot that I just don't agree with this whole, the whole system.
All right, so one of the things that we had on my particular Georgia site, obviously I cover Georgia recruiting, not totally. My thing is obviously what goes on between those white lines and scheme and infrastructure, breaking that stuff down. But I have to break down these recruits as well, because fans absolutely love recruiting. If you're not doing some type of recruiting, you're letting yourself down as a media personality, because fans can't get enough. Recruiting is year round, and fans want football content year round, which is the reason why they will frequent these sites, where I honestly don't believe that these guys are actually very good at their jobs, and whether it be journalism or the football aspect of it to begin with. But it's a microwave society. We want it now. We want content. But one of the guys that I was looking at is a kid. He kind of reminds me of your kid, Kenyatta Watson, obviously, who I know very well. I watched him grow. Very good player himself, but this Jalen Kimber kid, every time when I would look at him, I'd be like, man, this kid kind of reminds me of Kenyatta, right? So I saw him, I was looking at him, whatever like that. Then he commits to Georgia. And then with him committing to Georgia, it looks like there may have been a reactionary process to his evaluation, as he shot up the rankings really from offseason evaluation. Like, there's no football there, right? And then when you turn on his film, it's not the best film you've ever seen, and he's playing. I don't even really know where his school is at in Texas. It's probably small school. It's obviously small school football in Texas or whatever like that. But he's shooting up the rankings like you wouldn't believe. Now, I believe he probably should be that if you really look at the makeup of the kid, how long he is, his ability to transition with receivers, the aggressiveness of it. But to me, he did not have a good showing in the one-on-one reps in the 5-Star Challenge. How do kids like that who plays at a type of school like that really shoot up the rankings? Whereas I've seen kids, take your son, for example, playing big time high school football against the best of the best, some of the best testing numbers you'll see. I think I was looking on the Spark website. He may have had the highest vertical leap in the country. Like, for real, 6'2" cornerback and everything like that. It was crazy to me, but he kind of languished in the rankings, or he looked like he had a set, like they wanted him to be at a set spot, and he stayed there despite going to like the Under Armour camp and was actually absolutely killing it.
He languished on 247 ranking.
All right, every other. All right, we'll get there then. So tell me this: Why is that so? Is there some type of bias in this ranking? Like, why is Jalen Kimber shooting up where some guys, even beyond the Kenyatta, some other guys that we've seen in some of these big-time programs who have performed, why don't they shoot up? Like, what is that about? And specifically, if you want to talk about 247, it's on you.
Jalen, I've known Jalen for a very long time. Great kid, great family, great dad. Jalen's rise was, I believe, strictly because he tested through the roof at the Spark, the Dallas Spark. He was the defensive back MVP there. I mean, he had an amazing outing, no question. And I really believe that that's what led to, his jump. Because again, what kills me with these rankings, how do you rank kids and there's no football being played? How does anyone move and there is no actual football being played? I think that's the biggest farce about this whole, recruiting thing. Kids fly up the ranking. A lot of that has to do with, come on, let's just be honest, dude. A lot of that has to do with where you commit to go to school. We see it every year with the whole Bama bump. It happens every year. I mean, it is what it is. The kid, you know, he's a good football player. Does he have some things he needs to work on? Absolutely. But again, his ranking, his climb and his ranking was strictly off of his spark score, period. Because, and here's how you know that to be so. Played his entire junior year, ranking evaluation came up, right? So he was ranked where he was ranked. He did not move until after the Nike Open Regional down in Dallas, where he put up an unbelievable spark score. So again, are we putting more emphasis on how good you look in T-shirts and shorts? Or do we care about what it looks like when we put that film on and you going against other players? I think we both know the answer to that. So that's why that piece happens. But you got guys that are evaluating kids at set camp. You're not getting a chance to watch the kid live. You're watching a highlight tape, dude. You don't see what happens when the ball's away from him. Is he lazy? Is he chasing the ball? You know, what type of leader he is on the sideline when things aren't going well. You know, what happens if, you know, a big play happens in a game? Does he try and chase it down? What happens? You don't get to see that stuff. But guys are being ranked based on being at, you know, like the camp. Now, the thing about the camp, you know, some camps, like I'll use Under Armour, for example. When you have these Under Armour regional camps, some of the best players, like I speak about Atlanta, some of the best players in the country were here at the Atlanta camp. So you got dog on dog. Can you still affect a rating based on that? No, you cannot. But you can get an idea of what is his competitive toughness like. Does he shut down when another dog's across from him, or does he rise to the occasion? So again, that's my issue with the whole rankings. It's like, you know, these kids are being moved up and down. After this Nike opening that happens, that's coming up, kids are going to be moved up and down, up and down, up and down. More so up than down, because these guys hate to admit that they're wrong about a kid at all. Okay, they have to be right, you know, and it's all about selling subscriptions. All right,
so tell me this: have you ever had any experience with that? And you don't need to name any names or anything like that. But let's be honest here: every single one of these evaluation people, for the most part, are in contact with you, right? Have you expressed this to some of them, or you have any feedback that any of them, have anyone told you? You don't have to name any names.
I mean, my thing is this, man. You know, I understand the business, and I understand this is how these guys feed their family or whatever. So it is what it is. But you know, my thing about this whole thing again is.
But does that make it right?
No, absolutely it doesn't. I dealt with it firsthand in my house with my own kids. you get what I'm saying? So they didn't like me, you know, and I don't care. 247 didn't like me. Barton Simmons did not like me. So guess what? They punished my kids. How so? How do you go to the Under Armour All-American game and dominate? Be the only cornerback listed as a top 10 player every day, overall top 10 player, but your ranking falls at the end of. Yeah, he fell. He fell in the ranking after the Under Armour event. Like, how's that so? How's that possible?
So I seen a lot of the highlights from this event, and he was going against like George Pickens.
Best of the best.
Name some of the people.
He went against George Pickens. He went against Marquez Beeson. He went against Theo Weiss multiple times. He went against Marcus Washington. He went against, I mean, it was the who's who.
And was named a top 10 overall performer, but his ranking fell?
He was the only corner listed. He was the only corner listed in top 10 players, and ranking fell. Now, it went up, and it went up one slot, in Rivals. ESPN, it jumped like 40 slots. But, you know, at the end of the day, again, who's doing the evaluation?
So is there a bit of biasness there on some of these evaluations? Then how can you trust an evaluation that has a lot of people's jobs at stake if you say that the boosters are involved in this and that, and they're making snap decisions or they're making judgments on kids based on who they like or their parents or a coach or whomever like that? What the hell is that?
And it's called Welcome to Politics 101 is what it's called. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, you could put the film on and see for yourself. When you get an opportunity to perform against the best of the best and you come out as one of the best, shouldn't that mean something? No, it does not. Why? Because, and I don't care because again, I don't work for 247 Sports, but at the end of the day, I mean, I got countless text messages in my phone from individuals like, whoa, that doesn't even make sense. Like, his ranking does not make sense. You know, why is this? I don't know. Ask the guy who does it. That's the guy who does it. You know, every excuse under the sun was made. Oh, he needs to be more physical tackling. Showed that. Oh, he needs to show better ball skills. Showed that all week long. Okay? Like, but you're not there to see it. And then the people who are there to see it that are telling you what's going on, you're still not believing. So at the end of the day, man, I put zero. When I say zero stock in these rankings, I put zero stock in the rankings. Because, again, I saw it firsthand. There's a kid that played with us. I'm not going to name his name. You know who I'm talking about. Was rated super high. And I feel like he was absolutely overrated. And it's showing right now. You know, so at the end of the day, man, these people, it's like you said, there's no exact science to it. You know, how some of these things are done and you know, there's never been anything that's been posted that says, well, here's the 5 things that go into how a player's rated. You know, nobody knows. Then again, it's only like a few people. It's like this secret society of 2 or 3 people that controls rankings for hundreds of thousands of kids in the country. Man, come on, man, you can't. You know, even the NFL has a scout in every single region or area or something that goes out and actually, you know, how can I be the director of scouting for any entity and never, ever, ever one time do I come to a high school football game to watch guys that I'm rating? Now, can you get to all of them? No, you can't. But guess what? You got to trust the guys that are hired, that are in your area, that comes back and say, hey, this is not right. You know, you got to come back and you got to trust those guys. And that's not happening. There's no way that this happens.
Bruh.
And that's interesting right there, man. So my thing with that is, if you're talking about it being a relationship thing, right? Should these guys, this is one thing that me being in the business, even working at multiple rival sites and stuff, getting to really see how the sausage is made. Should guys be trying to break recruiting news, right? So meaning they're having to develop relationship with these guys. If you're trying to break any news, if you're any type of reporter, it's just like any other business. It's a relationship business, right? So you're going to be giving any kid that's giving you accessibility and you're able to somehow break his news or keep up with it and get the updates and stuff like that. Should those same people turn around and actually do their rankings as well? That would bring in a relationship bias as well. And that's how a lot of these things that's why you can have some people where their evaluation doesn't necessarily reflect what their rating is and everything like that. Expound on that, please.
Because it's about selling subscription. It's about we're going to cater to the kids that can give us stories or break news for us once it happens. To me, evaluation should be about finding kids that nobody knows about. Let's go back to the 219 game that we did. No one knew about 95% of these kids that played in this game. Okay? Now let's fast forward to signing day. All went Power 5, signed with big-time schools. I'm telling people, because these kids were in 8th grade, the 2019 class, the state of Georgia is going to be the best player. Well, how do you know this? Because I went and watched and studied each kid that was selected for this game. And, I mean, look, show me, I don't think there's another person that selected, 45 to 48 kids from a single state, and all those kids ended up being unbelievable. I mean, we can name countless 5-star kids that were not 5-star kids when this game was played that turned out to be 5-star. There's countless articles. Hey, I'm telling these folks, this kid is going to be this. This kid is going to be this. This kid is going to be this. Oh, you don't know. How do you know? Well, what makes my word any different than these guys? I played the game at the highest level. I can't do anything else. I can evaluate talent. So, but you won't listen to me because I don't have 247 or Bibles behind my name, but you'll listen to these guys just because it does. I mean, it doesn't.
Well, I don't know about that. Who are we talking about right there? Because I know countless of high level D1 coaches, and they lean on you for evaluations all the time. So, where are you going with that?
Right.
You're just speaking in general.
I'm speaking about the 247s and the rivals of the world. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the college coaches. Well, you know, I mean, I get hundreds of calls a day from college coaches asking specifically about kids. But again, I'm talking about who sells the subscriptions, who's at these events, who's writing these stories about these type of kids.
So you would say, I would say that pretty much 99% of these people that are doing that have really no football acumen to speak of. Some of these guys were just writers, you know. Some of these guys maybe been video. I've seen a video dude become a guy who they trusted to do rankings. And I thought to myself, like, wow, really? I've seen podcasts, hosts, whatever.
And here's where it came to a head. You had a guy at Rivals make up he was catfished by some kids and rank a kid as a 4-star. The kid wasn't even real. That should never, ever happen in this business. Ever. That to me was the pinnacle of the clownery that takes place in this industry. Excuse me.
Yeah, I'm so surprised that there was not more backlash from something like that. You know, like heads would have to roll if you're really taking this serious. And as a lot of people out there do, you know, you'll see people online, man. It's a knockdown, drag out type of world when you talk about recruiting ratings and stuff like that. And you're rating non-existent people, like that's crazy to me. That is crazy to me. Like you couldn't be in any other industry or regular job working at Coca-Cola and something like that happens, and that
but they'll jump all over kids. They'll jump all over kids for lying about offers. But at least the kid's real, but won't do anything about a guy getting catfished. Make it just like, do you not do your homework? Like,
of course,
you get what I'm saying? So it's stuff like that, man, that just that has me to the point that I'm at right now. And it's like, dude, I mean, come on, man. These kids, a lot of these kids work hard. Like, I'll give you a kid right now that was not at the 5-star challenge, that is going to be a budding superstar, a kid named Joey Hunter, 6'2" cornerback out of Sandy Creek. And this kid, and he's probably rated mid to low 3-star kid. I'll take him over some of these 5-star kids or these high 4-star kids any day of the week. Why? Because I've watched this kid for 2 years play. I've watched him train. I see the type of dog he is. I see his competitive toughness. And it's like, how do you miss on a kid like this?
You got a guy that you were badgering me about for a long time. You're like, Murph, you got to see Javon Baker. You got to see Javon Baker. Javon Baker. I saw Javon Baker at that 5-star challenge, and he was absolutely rocking people's world, hitting them with muscle relaxers, all kinds of stuff. Tell me about Javon Baker.
Javon Baker, to me, is the best wide receiver in the state of Georgia for the class of 2020. I had an opportunity to see Javon for many years because he trained with us. And then we played him, it had to be his freshman year, his sophomore year in high school. We played him. My son came and told me, he said, Dad, listen, that was one of the toughest covers that I've ever faced. And I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, because the kid makes everything look the same. And now he got bigger, faster, stronger. And again, every event that he goes to, he absolutely dominates. Every year, every event, he dominates the event. But I've been telling you about this kid 2 years now. Hey, man, wait till you see this kid. Hey, man, wait till you see this kid. Hey, man, wait till you see this kid. You know, I'm knocking on wood right here because, man, listen, it seems like every kid that I either talk about or tell people about, the kids end up being superstars. I ain't making up fake kids that don't exist, you know, and talking about or posting these kids. But at the end of the day, man, it's like, you know, I don't wait until kids become stars to now want to write or talk about these kids. I talk about these kids 8th, 9th grade when you first see them. You look at their body, you see the things that they're able to do. I'm very confident in my evaluations to say, hey, man, this kid is going to be a guy. And lo and behold, look what happened.
Are the rankings too reactionary in your opinion?
Absolutely. Absolutely. First of all, ranking to me should not start until after a kid's junior year, because now you have what's called body of work. It means something. You have body of work. You have spring practice. You have an entire season that you can now go back, study the film of these kids, and say, okay, I believe that this kid is this, and this. I cannot understand for the life of me, how can a ranking change when there's absolutely zero football being played? Rankings are being moved left and right. Some kids may not do well in a t-shirt and short setting, but you put that film on and they knocking jokers out. They're doing what matters on Saturdays and Friday nights. But some kids perform well in a 7-on-7 setting. But you can't adjust the kids' ranking because you see them in a t-shirt and a short. Absolutely not.
Man. Whew, boy, you're giving it the heat right there, man. So obviously you know what time it is. It's your man, Coach Kenyatta. It's Toe the Line with Coach K. I'm your host, Murph Baldwin. All right, so Coach K, let's circle back around when you were talking about the Clemson and Alabama thing. Get into some of the actual programs here and how some of these guys are evaluating their particular prospects. It seems like some of these guys have a different kind of recruiting strategy that is probably more like you would say in the NFL, where they are really no rhyme or reason to what they're doing. They're just collecting the best set of talent, right? And where some of these guys are like, you know what, this guy right here may not be the top of the line, like that fake recruit that didn't exist. He's not like that. But we think he fits our program, right? What is the best way of going about that, in your opinion? Because you're somebody that I wholeheartedly believe will be in the personnel business with some college one day.
Well, here's how I would look at it. First and foremost, I want to see what. So if I'm running a personnel department, first thing I want to do, I'm going to sit down with every coach and I want to find out, what are you looking for? What do you like? You know, do you like the 6'1" corner, or do you like the 5'10" corner? Do you like the long 6'5", 6'6" outside linebacker, or do you want the 6'3" guy? What do you like? What do you like? What do you want? And then you go out and hunt for that type of player. I just wholeheartedly do not believe that you can recruit in college the way the NFL build their board. NFL puts their boards together. Hey, these are our top 10 guys. Doesn't matter about position. These are the top 10 guys that we're looking for. Colleges, it has to be about, hey, we need this. We want 6'5" receivers. Look at like Clemson's receivers. They all look like they came out of the same cookie cutter except for the Rodgers kid. But everybody's long, tall, and can run. Okay. Alabama's wide receivers are a little different. You have a little bit of a variety between all those guys. You know, but what are we looking for? What fits us best? Clemson has they've done an unbelievable job at recruiting based on what fits our system. And when I say what fits our system, is he a character kid? Is he a locker room kid? Are we going to have to worry about this kid off the field? Because there are some guys, they may be fantastic on film, unbelievable player, but he's going to be a headache off the field, and you're rolling the dice whether or not he's going to be there or not. These are all things that have to go into consideration when you're evaluating kids. You look at a school like, okay, we use Boston College, for example. They've had 6 DBs drafted in the last 3 years, Boston College. And they've been 7-6, 6-7, 7-6, you know, whatever. But what Clemson has been able to do, I think the first year that they won a national championship, I think in 2017, the classes leading up to that were anywhere were mid top 15 classes, and they won a national championship. But the guy that led the program, the quarterback, they've always done an amazing job evaluating quarterbacks. Okay, fast forward to last year's national championship, Trevor Lawrence, they got him, unbelievable player. But they, you look at the receivers that they were able to, bring in with him. The kid from Alabama, then you got T. Higgins, you got all these other guys. So they seem to recruit more to a certain fit, a certain type of kid to their program. Whereas Alabama, they're going out, we're going to get the best players. We're going to get the best players, and we're going to coach them up to fit what we're doing. So it's two different styles. But at the end of the day, it works for both. Both are 55-4 over 4 years. Both have 2 national championships. I mean, at the end of the day, the only difference comes when you look at the NFL draft. Alabama's, they're out kicking everybody's coverage when it comes to draft picks.
Yes. So then you have a school that's close to me, obviously the school that I cover. Let me see. Why don't I say this? I think Georgia's whipping most people's ass when it comes to collecting talent, and they're going all over the United States, and they're just absolutely collecting whatever they want. If Georgia's on a kid, I don't care who it is. Alabama, Georgia's doing his. Georgia is off the chain right now, and so it's a very good recruiting staff. Also, we know Coach Smart, very very great recruiter. He's surrounded himself with some pretty good guys. Obviously, there's been a lot of staff turnover, so we don't know exactly how it will play out on the field. But I definitely know that they will always have a top recruiting class, 1, 2, or 3. It does not matter. But the thing to me is, I wonder about Georgia is they get these kids, highly rated kids, and then they instantly recruit over them. So is that kind of a lack of player development? Obviously, Georgia's going to be good. To me, I think Georgia's every bit as good as Clemson, every bit as good as Alabama, especially this particular coming year. I think Georgia could beat both of those teams, no doubt about that. But I think Georgia could beat even better if some of these kids were developed. I look at that 2017 class, and I went back through a lot of them. A lot of Nate McBrides, a lot of Jaden Hunters. You know what I mean? A lot of guys that we just thought were going to be very good. And I would say probably they may have hit on about 25-30% of those kids, and that was a top 3 class. You're hitting on 25 or 30% of a top 3 class. And that's not good. We looked at Clemson's 2016 class when it was going into its national championship, just like Georgia could win the national championship this year. That 2016 class, they hit on like 60-something% of a class that was like rated 11th, 12th, or 13th or something like that. So lower rated kids that they hit on a little bit more. Is that a misevaluation thing? Where do you think that stems from?
No, I'll tell you what it is. A lot of these high-level kids, man, again, they were always stroked. They were always told how good they were. They were always the best kid. So now what happens when you take good on good, big on big, put in a situation, a lot of kids don't thrive in that setting. Now, I think, some of it has to do with development, but a lot has to do with, I firmly believe, the competitive toughness, competitive character of a lot of these kids. Because at the end of the day, there's no way that you're rated, quote unquote, again, where you are, and you turn out to be what you turn out to be. I don't agree with that. And I think a lot of it has to do with a lot of these kids were overrated, really overrated. Okay. And then a lot of them, you were always the best kids. You never had to fight or scrap for anything. Now, when you get put in that situation where you have to, you just can't do it. So, and then the development piece, and also goes into it. And so it forces Georgia to come out and say, hey, we just signed Adam Anderson, Brenton Cox, Nolan Smith, Malik Herring. Now we're going to get the Sherman kid out of, DC. The DC area, So.
Or what about this? What about they signed the highest rated guard in the history of rankings, a kid by the name of Jamari Sawyer. I went and saw him play when he was a senior like 3 or 4 times. I thought he was a very good player, but obviously he's playing at a Pace Academy. It's funny, his teammate, Andrew Thomas, could be a possible top 10 pick in the draft. This kid is that good. But there's something about Jamari Sawyer to where they've gone out now and recruited, it seems like, 400 guards since him. He may have effectively been recruited over already, and he's just on his second year at campus. What do you think about something like that?
Again, man, I think that some kids struggle from the fact that they were always the biggest and the best and the strongest, and then again we go into the level of play. He did really well at camp. How do we know that? How do we know that to be true? Because guess what? One thing we've noticed, they will not say anything bad about a kid that they've sold all out on. Okay? So again, kid gets to school. He's now not the biggest kid. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. How do you handle that? Some kids don't handle it. And that could possibly be what we're seeing with the Sawyer kid. So guess what? At the end of the day, we got to go out. We got to keep fishing. 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 That's their recruiting strategy. Look at when Chip Kelly was at Oregon. They didn't have one class in the top 20. Played for a national championship, was always ranked in the top 10, top 5, had signed one 5-star kid during his tenure, which was Marcus Mariota, one 5-star kid in his entire tenure, but you go look at his record and the things that he was able to do. Oh, people say, oh, well, he played in the Pac-12. Football is football, man, at that level. You know, everybody's paid to coach him up. Everybody's paid to get him right. And he did his thing. They dominated. They dominated people. They did well in the bowl games. You know,
oh, yeah.
they beat up on Florida State after with Jameis Winston and those guys. You know, so at the end of the day, man, it's about player development. It's about, you know, total and absolute evaluation. You know, and
but yes, it is. Do they give up on these kids too quickly? Because I would like to see Jamari Sawyer play, but they've gone out and gotten Clay Webb. Trey Hill has made his name at center. Think about Notori Johnson and some of those guys from that 2017 class. All these guys were highly rated. Fans were falling over themselves for these guys.
Right, but it's because it's a win now. It's win now. Like, you ask yourself this question. If Bobby Bowden, Joe Paterno, Tom Osborne, all these guys were around during this time, would they have been at their respective schools for 20, 30 years? The answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Johnny Majors, Philip Foreman, these guys had a chance to put their stamp on the program, recruit, and win. So now, but why? Because the boosters, it's a booster-driven. College football is driven by the boosters. They want to see you win now, but you're done. You're fired. Like you said, it's a microwave society. Everybody wants to win now. Nobody's taking their time. We don't have time to develop. Jamari Sawyer could end up being an all-pro in the NFL. Will they wait 3 years for him to develop? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's why you see, you know, recruiting the way that it is right now. That's why you see people offering kids in the 7th and 8th grade now, and rankings are. I saw something today on Twitter. There was a kid that said he was the number 1 rated running back and he's a 6th grader. Like, what? You don't know how these kids are going to grow. You don't know what's going to happen. You know, so at the end of the day, man, it's too much is being put on, you know, these rankings. But I mean, like you said again, it's a microwave society. We want to know who's next. We got to win now. So we got to take the 5-star kid from Idaho over the local 2.5, 3-star kid that we can look on film all day and see that this kid is better. They say against better competition, but this kid is a 5-star kid. So guess what? We got to take it because it makes the people that sign our checks happy. You know, it sells subscription. You know, our team-based site's going really well because, you know, we're signing these guys. No, man, it can't be about it. You have to evaluate these kids. You hear people say, well, there's no way that you can evaluate 100,000 kids. But guess what? Narrow it down. We're going to recruit this region. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. You know, if you do recruit nationally, you know, you're going to have pockets of kids, but it can't be that difficult to evaluate talent on a day-to-day basis when that's all your job requires is for you to evaluate talent.
Great stuff, Coach K. No doubt about that, man. You are very insightful. I can't wait for future episodes of Total Line with Coach Kenyatta. What do you hope to accomplish with this type of a show?
I mean, I just want to again open people's eyes, speak on the truth. I'm not kissing anybody's butt. Not worried about whose feelings I hurt. You know, because people didn't worry about that with me. So guess what? I'm gonna give them back a taste of their own medicine. But at the end of the day, man, just let the fans inside a little bit to know, you know, the behind the scenes of how these things really work, and give them some things to think about. Like, you know, come on, man, you know, do your job. You know, at the end of the day.
All right. So last thing here, you had a tweet where you said comparison is the thief of joy. Can you expound on that?
Because you see so many kids, man. Well, this kid has 10 offers and I don't have any, and I'm bigger than him. But if you're worried about what the next guy's doing, you're not gonna ever be successful. So that's what that tweet was about. It was kind of, you know, just let kids know, man, focus on your process. This recruiting thing is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Okay, if you throw your line in the water too, guess what? You'll catch a fish, but you can't catch a fish looking at the other person's line.
Poignant. All right, y'all. There you have it. Total Line with Coach K. My man Kenyatta Watson. I'm your host, Murph Baldwin, and we will be back soon. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend about this bad boy. All right? Peace.
Yes, sir.
What more can I say?
Top Billin.